It's there.
Got it.
It was hiding under the more dot 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 button. That's Greenville, David. It's raining here. David,
Yeah,
how's Greenville?
Greenville is good. Just
It's
nice
kind of
and
rainy
sunny.
here. It's
Yeah.
rainy and
Now I
thundery.
have bad weather on my way up.
Oh, yeah. They were talking about 50 knots and 3/4 hail at the weapons station today.
Say, Walter, you gonna put the time in, or do we put it in ourselves?
I'll make an announcement when we get going. If you want to, the recording started, just put your name, member number, and flotilla in the chat room.
I got that in there, yeah.
Hey, Walter, do you want to insert your name as a course facilitator? I'm just kidding.
Sorry about that. I had to step away for the pause that refreshes. Coke. I'd drink it in my sleep if I could. Hey, folks, the way I'm set up here, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep a good eye on the chat or people raising their hands and stuff. So if anything weird happens, don't be shy to interrupt me and let me know.
Seriously, Walter, 47 slides.
Yeah. But you could have done this the first time around, and then you wouldn't have anything to complain about now. So it's 47 for you. That's 94 for me, because I've had to do this at least twice already.
Beautiful.
But that is the price I'm willing to pay just to hang out with my auxiliary buddies, vaccinated or otherwise.
Well, unfortunately, that whole annoying JOB thing got in the way.
Yeah, I understand. It does happen sometimes, doesn't it? So has anybody else been quarantined up until a couple of days ago from doing auxiliary stuff in person? Besides me?
Nope. Been
Okay.
hard at it.
So Ed, I started clearing out the boat ramp this week. First stop was called Operation Roundup. Get in there and try and kill all the stuff that was growing up through it.
I'm just waiting for you to say it's clear so I can bring the boat up. I appreciate your efforts.
The ramp itself is clear. It's the top end of it where the little trolley and the winch and all that stuff is. I got a couple of trailers over there that I need to get out of the way so I can properly attack this thing. Is it, who's got a clock in front of them? Is it 7?
1 minute shy, sir.
Okay. Can anybody tell how many people we have logged in?
10.
10. Excellent. I get time and a half for anything over 8.
I don't see everybody's, maybe because of the timing, but I don't see, not everybody may have put stuff in the chat, their ID number.
Yeah, I just turned the recording on a minute ago, so I'm gonna ask people to do that again. Okay, if you're online, I'm gonna ask you to do the login thing again, because if it happened before I started the recording, it will not show up in the text log that is recorded afterwards. So go ahead and sign in again and we'll get started.
Make sure you explain, Walter, not everybody knows the sign in, meaning the use of the chat feature.
Okay, if anybody has problems with the chat feature, let me know, but if you mouse down to the bottom of the screen, you will see a little chat bubble like in the cartoons. Click on that and the chat will pop up on the right hand side. Just look at what everybody else did, and name and number is all we really need. Okay, welcome to the Surface Ops workshop. We're going to blow through this in fairly short order tonight, so we are. Okay, I got to figure out which one to click on here. There we go. This comes from the Auxiliary National Response Directorate, uniform across the board. Okay, what we're going to do is go over review of policy, some safety enhancements, and this workshop is not a replacement for TCT. It is a complement to it, hopefully a little bit more technical and a little bit less philosophical than team coordination training, aka risk management. So I would love to have some input back from the field, whatever you guys like or don't like about what we're doing here. Well, let me know. So everybody should have already done the one-time intro to risk management. Hopefully everybody has got a shot at the annual TCT refresher, risk management refresher. Is there anybody out there that still needs this?
It's a great course and I have not done it yet, the refresher part.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm up for the refresher as well, Walter.
yeah. It's a bigger deal if you've already got qualifications that might be at risk if you don't get it, but the expiration dates of those quals is going to be impacted by your risk management refresher. So keep an eye out if we get another online version that we find out about, we'll try and let everybody know. Okay. So risk management is a mindset and a culture of safety. What we do on the water is inherently complex, potentially dangerous, and of course involves the acceptance of some level of risk. Risk must, to all caps, be continuously evaluated all the way through the mission, not just when we start. And that's something where we can really do each other a service by continually reminding each other, especially if you have a forgetful coxswain like me, to refresh that assessment and make sure that after a break or some change in situation that you're keeping the whoever's holding your guard apprised of what you see as your biggest threats. So we've got these peace and star models that's gone over excruciating detail in the TCT program. We'll brush it on it a little bit around the Surface Ops program. So We're looking for help. We're changing our plans. We're dealing with risk by trying to do everything we can up front and then keeping an eye on things as we go along through the mission. All right, before we get going, everybody should be looking at the risks. Do we have the right facility for the mission? What's the weather going to do today? We got the right people. Do we have trainees or do we have crew that's done the whole thing previously? Does everybody know what we're supposed to be doing out there? If not, make sure everybody's dialed in before you get off the dock, right? Am I personally ready and capable for this mission? Do I think the other guys are, or gals? Safety is always first priority. Remember, safety of the crew, the public, and the vessel are more important than the mission. So to get there, we've got this extensive qualification program for training and making sure our crews meet standards. So we were trying to be excellent at what we do. We train for proficiency. You really do want to be better. I mean, if you're just doing the same stuff, patrol after patrol, year after year, that gets old, even if you like being out on the water. Everybody wants to think like they're better this year than they were last year, or that there's some higher level qualification that they ought to be working towards. So all patrols should include a training component based on the needs of the crew. Yeah, I can make the case that not all patrols have to have a training component. It's good to do it, particularly given the difficulty sometimes in rounding everybody up for a training patrol. But most of the time, once you're done with what you're doing, you can throw a drill at the crew on the way back in, practice restricted visibility navigation or working with the chart plotter, man overboard drill, do something. Okay, across the auxiliary, every patrol is going to require at least 2 people. One of them's got to be qualified as a coxswain. The other one has to be qualified as crew. So on a small boat, most of our boats, coxswain plus 1 is minimum, and often that's all the crew you've got. If that's it, you got to think hard about whether you got everything you need to conduct the mission safely. That seems to be one of their focus points this year. So, we got 4 or 5 watch positions that are supposed to be manned. And if there's only 2 bodies there to do it, got to be careful. Make sure that everybody, or the both of you, can handle what you're going to need to do, including emergencies. So who's going to be the lookout, helmsman, the radio watch? Who's got the navigation picture? Is somebody got the right skill set to do more than one of these things at the time? Is the coxswain even able to do more than one at a time? Are you organized for it? Do you have the gear? Do you have the gear where you can get it without having to send half your crew below decks to go root around for something? Okay, I'm safe. Clearly stolen from the aviation community, but effective nevertheless. This one's been around a long time. I'm safe. It's a mnemonic for taking yourself through a self-assessment of whether you have an illness, whether you may be taking a medication that's got some sort of effects on your performance. Are you under stress, psychological pressure, financial, family problems? Alcohol, have I been drinking within the last 8 hours, within 24 hours, 12 years? Marijuana apparently is not legal for use under federal law. Although after spending New Orleans, Memorial Day weekend in New Orleans, I think I was the only one there that wasn't on the ganj. So South Carolina, it's not legal for us here either. Just a reminder that even if it was, no good for the aux. fatigue, I'm tired, not adequately rested. I had a bad night last night. I probably would not be as effective today as I normally would be on the water. Have I been eating well, nourished and hydrated? Well, I've got Coca-Cola here and my son's cooking dinner inside, so I think I'll be okay. Here's a discussion point. I'd like to hear something back from some of you guys that have been out on the water a bunch. No names, no specifics unless they're germane. You ever seen people that had problems on the water physically? Someone?
I'm sorry, this is Greg Corson. Yeah, with some of the older folks, I know we had a guy, he was a coxswain, but he was having some, getting on in age, and his legs would about give out on him. We had, and it was hard for everybody to tell him, you probably shouldn't be doing this right now, or maybe your time's up. But I mean, one time he felt he was a heavy set guy too. He about dragged 3 of us overboard with him, trying to keep him steady. So it happened. And it's a hard thing, kind of, with folks. They don't want to give it up. But yeah, we've had issues with that, physical type things, physical limitations.
What in retrospect, what could have been done that wasn't done?
Well, we did have talks with him, various people, but he really was very adamant on this. I know you can bump it up a notch. What we tried to do is kind of plan it around some of his issues, maybe where we would board the facility, make it where it'd be more convenient for him. But it happened, it was his facility, and he was probably kind of a hard-headed guy too. So we did have some issues with that. He finally kind of gave it up on his own, but that's kind of a tough one. It's like I said, this guy, he's a coxswain, he's a facility owner.
Well, not to jump in anybody's chili, but if there was concern, why were people willing to crew for him?
Well, people do. I mean, it's just, I know,
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
getting time on, well, to be honest with you, getting time on the water. You had a nice facility. You're always limited on facilities. People need to get things done. That's the old, unfortunately, we've always got that breathing down the neck. You got to get out, you got to get your hours, you get your time. I mean, it is what it is. I know your things you're supposed to do, but
it's the only train leaving the station, right?
that is correct.
Okay.
And as well as I did, we have a lot of that, it's
Yeah.
a constant, you got to get it done. You're running out of time, and everybody's limited. Personally, I think there's a little bit too much of that sometimes. There's no leeway, but this is where we are.
Okay, well, not to pick on the old folks too much. I've seen people that were nowhere near.
Well, you're talking to one, so we're.
Oh, well, I hope to be one myself someday. But I've seen
Right
people
there.
that were nowhere near elderly.
That's true.
That had
Too.
physical problems that did not.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply elderly. I mean, there's other folks who were out of condition. Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got a sea story about being on a boat with somebody that had a problem?
Hey, Walter, not necessarily anything like that, but just wondering about the person that does not want to give it up. I mean, obviously a lot of folks really like what they do in the auxiliary. Being on the water is a great thing. So in a case like that, if he's coxswain and he's still got a good mind, I don't see where the coxswain would have to be as physically able, because since he's the owner of the facility as well, that his duties would be somewhat limited, other than just being able to command the vessel. If you follow what I'm saying.
Well, that sounds like a good plan. Plans don't always hold up, though.
Understand.
You know, everybody on the boat should be able to do every job on the boat that they're qualified to do. Right? If you're
think-
holding a coxswain credential, you ought to be able to raise the anchor.
You know, one thing, Walter, being on a boat with only two people, if you have a man overboard and you have to pick somebody up, it's pretty difficult for just one crew member or one person to get that person on board. So
Oh, yeah. I can't say that I've had to do it, but
we
That one-
have, so.
seems like an easy concept for people to agree with. Okay, let's go. Yeah, I didn't even read the slide, but it sounds like they wrote it about your friend, Greg. Okay, proficiency. Ever seen crew members executing unsafe maneuvers? What did you do? What should be done to eliminate or reduce these risks? Do you train as a normal part of patrols? Anybody got a particular area of craft as a crew that where we tend to take risks and do things that might put us at danger of physical injury unnecessarily? I've got one in mind. I'm just wondering if anybody else has one. Where would you say in the normal course of running through a few patrols where we've got the greatest likelihood of a problem?
Towing.
Towing?
Yep.
Okay, maybe. What specifically, what part of towing?
Just the overall approach, the understanding that you're liable for contact, just the sequence, the preparedness, the being on top of it, simulating when you do it over and over and you do the line and heaving line and so forth. But when you actually have to do it in a sequence where you're really trying to assist somebody and you're supposed to do it in a way that allows you to do it so that you're working expeditiously, safely, you're aware of everybody. I've seen it in training exercises, but I've seen it in non-training exercises, and I think most of the time we come short. So
I'm gonna narrow it down a little bit more to the subject that I had on my own mind. And this is something that just flashes back at me. Now you're talking to a guy that hasn't been on a patrol in about 9 months. But overall, the thing that terrifies me almost more, or if I had to bet what somebody was going to get hurt doing, I would just call it, generally speaking, line handling. All right. Anchoring, weighing the anchor, docking, towing. It's that business of wrapping the lines around the cleats and not catching a finger in there, or throwing a heaving line without snagging something or hitting something. I think in general, that's something that we could focus on. And since I'm allowed to add content to this thing, but not take anything out, I'll just ask you, think about that a little bit. Next time you're out on a boat, keep an eye on how people are acting around the lines. Are they wearing gloves? Are we going hand over hand, or are we letting line run through our fingers? Stuff like that.
One other thing when you're towing too is staying clear of the tension on the lines, because we were always real good about that, keeping some standoff distance, because that could sustain some major injuries.
That one never bothered me if I was driving, because I figured if there was a crew and right behind me, he might protect me from the.
Yeah, but he could suffer some major damage. That is a major safety issue,
True
but
enough.
we never had any problems with that.
Okay.
Something else that came under that too, and this was a real life where people would not don their PFDs, the tow vessel, and we just say, fine, well, we just cut loose, and they'd come around usually, but that's something we've had arguments about. And it's, well, really wasn't an argument. We'd just say, well, fine, we're try to radio, get somebody out here for you.
Yeah, I was on a station boat a couple of years ago. We had a 7-hour side tow where we had to pump the guy out like every 15 minutes. We had a P6 on board, and we'd have to send the engineer over there to start the pump and pump him out. And they never once told the guy to put a life jacket on. He was sitting there in a pair of flip-flops and shorts all day. So I think we're supposed to tell them to do it. We've got no enforcement authority. You figure out what the line.
Well, we had our own enforcement, as I say, we would cut loose. We would just, we did not want that liability.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what's next here. Number 3, professionalism. Have you ever seen a coxswain or crew members not concentrating on the mission, talking about stuff that's not mission related, not paying attention? I think this one was written about me, because I do all this stuff. It's not good, and I always appreciate crew that is willing to tell me to get back on topic. So
You mean wearing a t-shirt on the facility in the middle of a river?
I was trying to simulate a member of the boating public, which I did very successfully, despite my lack of flotation. Okay, anybody got a decent story about this? I don't need one if there's not, but anybody run aground because we were talking about baseball or? No? Good? Okay, moving on. Uniforms. Oh, man. You are now finally no longer allowed to wear the tucked ODU. We still have people within the last year or two that wanted to be qualification examiners that refused, that insisted on wearing a 15, 20-year-old set of tucked ODUs because the book said that they could, even though nobody else in the crew had that uniform. So glad that one's gone. I guess we've got some uniform changes coming up. I haven't really been paying too much attention. Anybody got a decent uniform story? What do we think about everybody shows up in ODUs, but 2 guys have got boots on and 2 guys have got boat shoes on? Is that legit?
Not
It is
really
not,
legit.
sir.
No.
Unless,
Everybody's supposed to
unless
look the
they have
same.
some type of profile.
A profile?
Yeah, some
Either
type
one
of,
is-
some type of soft shoe profile.
Or
where-
for my purposes of this discussion, either one is acceptable, but everybody's supposed to be wearing the same thing.
And also the cox is supposed to state the uniform of the day for the patrol,
Yeah.
and everybody should comply.
How about a mix of hot weather and ODUs? Cool? Not cool.
I'd say no.
Not cool. But that's something you can sort out ahead of time, right? That shouldn't be a dockside surprise when you show up at the ramp or the marina. Okay. Yes, as part of your pre-mission briefing, discuss what to do if the coxswain becomes disabled. I'll lead. In my case, I'm generally speaking a coxswain, a non-owner coxswain, right? So I'm almost always on somebody else's boat, and that somebody else is usually on the boat with me. So default in those cases, but it bears saying out loud before the mission is, okay, if something happens to me, the guy that owns this boat's going to get you guys home, right? Anybody ever had a situation where a coxswain fell out and couldn't do his deal?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Before we had a coxswain in the boat was a 34-footer. There were like 3 of us as crew. The coxswain was the owner. the coxswain all of a sudden took sick. And I think we did the normal pre, and we gave him 1,000. So we had to discontinue the operation and we brought him home. And we did not go out.
Okay. Good. Well, I would like to think somebody would bring me home. All right, first aid training, we all understand that we are to, by the book, we are trained, we can provide first aid up to the limits of our training. I'll teach this stuff, but I'm not sure I would obey it if I knew CPR, but I was not CPR qualified and somebody needed CPR, I think I'd run the risk of getting in trouble with the auxiliary rather than let them just flop around. But your mileage may vary, so just understand that the rules say that you're supposed to stick to what you're trained and qualified to do. Okay.
Let me ask a question then. What is trained? Play the devil's advocate here a minute.
We outsource training for CPR and first aid. Usually we get it from a fire department somewhere. They've got their own instructor standards and there is a qualification for first aid and there's another qualification for CPR.
Okay.
What about CPR? Okay, I've been trained for umpteen years, but then all of a sudden my certificate is no longer valid. Yet I would think I could handle CPR, but legally, because the card says 6 months ago it expired. Now what?
I would take the victim and get him to hold still and then show him the card and explain that that's why you can't help him. I mean, isn't that that's the logical follow on to what they're writing in this regulation here, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, or you could help the guy and then just deal with whatever kind of shit you get in trouble for afterwards, right?
If you saved the guy's life, it seems unlikely he's going to file a lawsuit that you saved him.
Well, they'll give you a medal and then they'll kick you out of the auxiliary.
That's right. Okay.
The solution to all this, folks, is to get to be on the call with 911. An operator is permitted to instruct you on how to perform it. So you don't have to actually be,
That's a good point.
yes, technically certification needs to be current in order to perform the two skills as per the guidelines, but you can call 911 dispatcher and they will say, do you know CPR? Say, yeah, I've been trained before. It says, and I'll walk you through it. And under the guideline, they will instruct you what to do and what sequence and how often and da.
Okay.
Excellent point, David. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But how are you going to make a call from a boat? We're not supposed to use cell phones on patrol, are we?
You ask the coxswain for permission.
Okay. All right. So if we have a aviation incident or mishap, the surface guys want to know about it as well. All mishaps must be reported to the OIA and the team leadership. So this second bullet here, additionally, the auxiliary requires any incident which causes a disruption or alteration of the mission to be reported. That seems fairly broad. But if you're out there, maybe as part of a regatta patrol and you run aground or something happens that changes your status, you're going to let the watchstander know anyway. So the term just culture is thrown around. Hopefully we improve our performance and our ability to do things safely, not looking to punish people, believe that if you like, and this is not a free pass for careless or reckless actions, you better believe that. Okay, mishaps. Complacency, yeah, we've done this before, no big deal. Track line deviation, drifting off course, and speed. So COVID mitigation, this is 6 months old. I'm just going to ask if there's any questions about COVID. Okay, moving on. PPE, we probably should make sure this stuff's on the boat. I will make sure I've got this in my coxswain bag going forward. Radio basics, professionals, no time. I still don't like the way they wrote this. If you're trying to describe the guy that fell overboard, you can't use any of this stuff. Crazy. But you know what we're talking about when you see that slide, right? It's not that you can't physically describe somebody, it's that you can't use that kind of description to imply anything else about them. Okay, brevity and accuracy. Think about what you're going to say before you key up. Listen in on the radio, try and fall in with the rhythm of the watchstander and sound like you belong out there, right? Practice and use proper radio procedures. All right. Do we really have to tell people to listen before keying up? Yeah, I guess. You are the voice. Speak clearly. Pro words. We don't use slang and jargon. 1-6 international emergency distress. And good idea to have a radio dedicated to 16 on a crew member. Most people have a handheld. A lot of people bring them on patrol. It's a good way to make sure you're covered, because you might hear something that the watchstander missed.
Hey, Walter, there's somebody whose Mac is on that we hear background.
That could be coming from my end here. Is it that bad?
There's somebody talking in the background.
Okay. Yeah, let me see what I can do about that. All right, responsible for the entire crew, we're talking about the coxswain now. Arrange make sure that the crew is all familiar with the boat, check the gear, cards and member proficiency, make sure everybody knows how to use stuff, and go through the physical assessments, make sure that everybody is playing it honest in terms of whether they're fit for duty or not. So we're going to assign people to particular watch stations. Going to supervise the helmsman if you're not actually at the wheel. The radio channels, that's just going to depend on your local area. Do we have anybody from 12.3 up there on the call? No. 12.1?
Yes.
Okay, what are you guys doing for radio watch on patrols now? You cell phone down to
Cell
sector?
phone, cell phone, yep, cell phone with sector.
Okay, good. All right, we got to keep an eye on the crew, make sure they're okay. Got that 2 challenge rule, right? Are you okay? Are you okay? No answer after the second one. We got to make sure that we don't really have a bigger problem here. Cutoff switch. Am I the only guy that isn't a huge fan of these things?
What's your beef with them?
Because I've killed boats by turning around and accidentally yanking them. I mean, I've shut engines down unintentionally. That's sort of my only beef.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Walter, I'm not a fan of them either.
Okay, well, look, we're going to be honest with each other out here, people. Okay,
I have done the same thing.
I don't like them.
Ask
It
my
was a
wife to
good-
take over and drive, and I turn around and walk off and kill the engine.
All right.
It's a good idea about the kill switches. They have an extra one. If somebody should be thrown overboard and drifting away, if you don't have another kill switch, you're dead in the water. So
That's true.
Yeah, and so is he.
I thought that was a real good thing.
Okay, we're gonna look at risk as things change.
But if you attach a kill switch to your shoe, when you turn around, you almost never end up getting it tangled. It's annoying to bend down, but if you attach it to your shoe, it doesn't affect the operation.
Huh, okay.
You're
I
more
bet I'd still
likely
find a
to,
way to do it.
yeah, you're more likely to turn from the upper body rather than moving your feet.
I like maybe a proximity switch, an electronic one, better than the little curly cord.
Mhm.
Okay, risk management is a practice, not just a one-time event. We'll look at this I am safe. We'll try and remember to brief that in prior to getting underway. Mobile deployments prohibited without permission from the coxswain, helmsman, whoever's driving, not to be on a cell phone. We have to maintain proper lookouts, as do all vessels. Radio watch, yeah, if you got a radio, it's supposed to be on and tuned into 16. You can scan, you can have multiple radios. There's lots of ways to skin the cat, but it's a good idea to make sure that if something happens on 16 that you're going to hear it. All right, PLB, you got to wear them, check the battery dates. I think we've got a bunch of ones coming up for mass expiration. So make sure that your batteries are still good on those things. SAR response, do only what you're capable of doing. But very often just being on scene as a presence is helpful. You might not have a pump on board, for example, if a boat's taking on water, but if it takes on all the water, then maybe you can pull the people out of some of the water. All right, watch the no wake zones. We've got some new ones down in the Charleston area. Oxdata 2. I have not used this thing since they put in the cost estimating requirements, so I'm not qualified on that. Is there anybody that's been through all that has anything worth sharing?
What do you mean by that? I think what it is they want to know how many hours of estimated engine that you're going to have. So I guess they want to check the budget. They don't want to just assume. So I think it's allowing the OIAs to guesstimate that if people have planned on taking a 2-engine boat on a 3-hour ride, and they're going to try to charge it in 8 hours of runtime. I think there's some limitations.
Well, the system wouldn't let you do that even prior to this. This is supposed to be the auxiliary giving some idea of what the job is going to cost to the guy that has to approve the job before he approves it. So I haven't gone through the order request business since they changed this. So we'll figure it out.
You have to put everything, every meal that you're planning on putting in there, the ice, whether there's going to be water, any additional costs. You don't have to worry, and you just have to guesstimate the amount of gallons. It doesn't do more than that. It doesn't. You don't have to type in the oil and whatever other percentage.
All right, so file your claims as quickly as you can. Keep the books current. So there's references on how to go through the order request business. If you're not a facility owner or a coxswain, you probably don't have to worry about this. 22B, I forget what this is. SAR standby training. Anyway, don't get the computer people mad at you for using some code that doesn't make sense.
So 01 Delta standby.
01 Delta, that's, we should have some of that before and after each mission. Again, that's Cox and facility owner concern. What you do need to understand, regardless of your position in the crew, is that your time for prepping the boat counts against your fatigue limit for the mission, which for normal calm waters on a boat is 8 hours. If you spend an hour and a half getting the boat ready, you got 6.5 hours left once you're underway. And you are bagged. Close out your orders within 30 days. Other reimbursable expenses, tolls if you're pulling the boat on a trailer, temporary moorings if you're someplace where they charge you to tie up for a little while, ramp fees, park fees. All right, we don't put per diem type stuff, food and water. There's other places for that. Per diem, can't ever put hotel bills on patrol orders. You would have to get regular travel orders from the Coast Guard for that. Trying to prorate your annual boat costs and gaff that off on the Coast Guard, that's not going to go over well. So responders are a little newsletter. They're always looking for articles. If you see something, write something. How about that? I just made that up. Okay,
Very good.
we are near the end or at the end. You just got to tell me what I did wrong and I will give you credit, maybe. No, is that what about you expected out of this thing? We try and get our minds into the boats for a little bit, even if we haven't been out on the water recently. And I certainly have not, but I'm looking forward to getting back out.
Yes, sir. Very informative. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the brevity. Sometimes they can drag on ad nauseum, but I think this was spot on.
Well, I'm starting to smell dinner, so
I do have a question related to orders that's not
Sure.
exactly in line with this, but are you guys, anybody having trouble getting orders in place? Specifically what I'm after is some of the stations, and one in particular, we can't seem to get the OIA to be able to sign off on the orders. And I don't know the entire process that well, but apparently there's some issue there where we get them approved, but it's a huge task to make it happen.
That is something to take up with probably in order, just playing by the book, the sector coordinator, Bruce Lindsay, in turn, the sector auxiliary liaison officer, Ensign Holland, and it could be a training issue on the active duty side. I can tell you what happens when you complete a patrol order request and you send it in. I forget what the right term is, requested, when you change status from new to requested.
Okay.
There is a pool of people that have the permissions, the juice, the roles in aux data to approve that mission. And they are all notified by email that there is a mission awaiting approval.
Okay.
In a well-functioning sector, that is the professional courtesy is to not approve orders except for your own guys. Like the station Tybee guy may be able to approve orders for station Charleston, but he wouldn't do it unless the Charleston guy asked him to. For some reason, he couldn't get into the system or was out of
Okay,
town.
I understand. Makes sense.
So, but if any of those station guys is unavailable or unwilling or otherwise not going to approve orders, the sector Oxlow can go in and do it. We had several years with Station Charleston where the sector Oxlows had to do all of the order approval and the submission, the reviewing the finances, because the station guys just weren't doing it. Not a good situation, but that's what it was. And as long as the sector people were willing to let the station people not do their jobs, they got to do their jobs for them. So
Okay.
we'll see what how things play out once we get back into action here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I think it's still an issue of authority at the OIA to be able to do it. I mean, he's been, I think it's something in the system that's not set up to allow him to do it or something like that. However, we did get Ensign Holland to sign that order, so we were able to go out this morning. They just had
Well, if the guy
a
is,
lot of hoop jumping.
if the guy, presumably the guy is the ops, I don't know any of these people up there anymore. Presumably what we're talking about is the ops officer at Station Georgetown. And if he has not been flagged in Ox data as the order issuing authority for your flotilla or orders that are done in support of Station Georgetown, then that's an issue for District 7 to correct and get the guy set up so he's got the juice to push the button.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah, which code are we using for this, Walter? You're recording in a system that we did the program, but is this just regular, what number?
Oh, for
29.
is there somebody that's better at that stuff than I am that wants to answer the question?
Do we use operational training? I think it's like 66 or something.
I thought if I did it on a workshop form that it was automatic, that it's
Yeah, that's
060
generally what
or I don't know what it is. I'm not an IT guy, so I don't know.
On one of these that I was on, they used 99 Delta for the hours. However, as far as getting this into Ox data, I guess that would be the IS officer, or are you going to put that in as the,
I will fill out the workshop attendance form and send it to my
okay,
IS
that's
guy,
good.
who will.
Then our time normally would be 99 Delta.
I'm more concerned about making sure that you guys get credit for the workshop before the end of this month than
Right.
the credit for the hours. Okay.
Hey, who's that guy on the dock?
Oh, it's a friend that's over here for dinner. He's been,
Okay.
that's the guy in the
Anyway.
background. Who's background noise is now foreground view. Okay, you can wave. We got the camera going.
Mhm.
So anyway, if there's nothing else, folks, I will thank you all for your time and appreciate you paying attention and participating.
Well, thank you, Walter.
Thank you,
Thank
Walter.
you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Walter.
Walter.
Have a good evening.
Have a
Enjoy
good
your
evening.
dinner.
Will do. Thanks, folks.
Thanks.